This podcast is brought to you by the letters KYLT. So shakies and budget, and then you also picked up kind of a little bit of a high-profile part-time job through the University of Montana. Tell me about that.
I did. We in 1998, the bid was up for the broadcast rights to University of Montana sports.
Okay.
And my boss, and this is when I'm still operations manager for, and the ownership is Marathon Media, and my general manager is my first boss from 20 years earlier, Gene Peterson. Gene Peterson now works at Marathon Media, because when Mark Ward and Dale Moore sold, they moved on, and just with obscene amounts of money. And Gene Peterson loved the Montana Grizzlies. He loved the Montana Grizzlies. And he said, This bid is available. We need to put our best foot forward.
Okay.
And I said, I think you just told me you want me to write this. Because Gene could be very Rumpelstiltskin-y. You know, he would talk in kind of, didn't necessarily come right out and say what he meant, you know. And yeah. So I had, that was really probably one of the most pressure-packed moments of my career, is that I had to prepare this bid. I mean, I wasn't just spitballing dollars and cents. I knew what sort of budget he had to work with, and Gene had sold Marathon Media not a bag of goods, but he said, we really, really want this, not necessarily at whatever the cost, but if it's over our budget, we want this because this is the kind of money we can make off of it. So I had to write that bid and presented it to the University of Montana Athletic Department, and KYLT Radio, after so many years, decades of ownership.
Yeah.
We won the bid. KGBO became the voice of University of Montana football and men's basketball. KLCY became the voice of University of Montana women's basketball. We won the damn bid. And okay, well, now it's kind of like when I was first informed I was the operations manager. It was a little bit like, okay, what do I do now about this? And had to kind of grow into that position and learn. And no, we get the bid, and you know, not to go into all the gobbledygook of a contract, but there was one thing that was sort of noticeable, one of the clauses, and the University of Montana sports information director at the time, Dave Guffey, calls me right after we get this and says, you know, in that contract, there's a clause that says the station that has the broadcast rights, they can appoint or at least nominate or suggest public address announcers for the big three, for football, for men's and women's basketball. I said, oh yeah, I guess, yeah, I did notice that. And he said, gosh, I can't remember the guy's name, but I think he was actually a teacher in journalism or radio TV at the University of Montana. He was a public address announcer for football. John, I do remember his first name was John. John Twiggs. John Twiggs is leaving. And so we need a new announcer for football. And we all agreed that should be you. And I said, you know, I can't tell you how flattered I am about that. I've always wanted to do that. Never really had any interest in play-by-play, but I've always wanted to do that. And I can't believe that I'm going to tell you no. But I have to tell you no, because as the operations manager, we're trying to put together a 2-hour pregame broadcast on site at the tailgate area. And I've got I think I got some pretty talented guys, but I have to mother hen that thing. And so I would not have time to I wouldn't have time to prep. I wouldn't be able to get to the prep. I wouldn't be able to do any of that because my responsibility lies with that pregame show. We've sold a lot of ads. We got a lot of revenue on it. It's got to be good. He said, okay. He says, well, do you have any thoughts? I said, well, yeah, I think I know somebody to do a good job for you. And he says, who? I said, one of my coworkers, Peter Christian. Okay, well, we'll talk to him. And so Peter got that gig in 1998, and he is not let go now for 29 years. I think he missed one game due to illness. But at the same time, so I recommend Peter to Dave Guffey, the sports information director, and I said, but so that means that the University of Montana women's basketball, the Lady Grizz public address announcer's job is open. And he said, well, yeah. Do you want that? I said, I think I would like that. So there was my audition and interview for the Lady Grace PA job. Oh, you want that? Yeah, okay, sure. So I started that in 1999.
Okay.
98, excuse me. And have not, just like Peter, I have not let go. And a couple years down the road, they also wanted me to do men's basketball. So I did men's basketball did men's basketball for a couple of years. Excuse me. And it was by now we're in the early O's, and the basketball team is not very good, and the men's head basketball coach is not in good standing, and things just aren't going well. So they form a spirit committee. And one of the things that the spirit committee, how can we increase attendance? How can we get increase enthusiasm,
and more revenue?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but one of their solutions, one of their suggestions was, we need a separate public address announcer for men's basketball and women's basketball.
Okay.
That'll take us right over the top. We just struck gold. The athletic director at the time, Wayne Hogan, calls me and says, the Spirit Committee decided that we need a public address announcer, 2 separate public address announcers. Okay. So does this mean that I'm not going to do the men's anymore? He says, well, you can audition for, we're going to hold some auditions. You can audition for the men's public address announcer job. And my response was, so I can keep the Lady Grizz public address announcer job. Yeah. Or I can audition for the men's job. Yeah, I'll keep the women's job. And so they went through a couple of public address announcers, or at least one, maybe 2. And the crowd was they were so unhappy. And so by now we have a different athletic director, Jim O'Day, and we're at some kind of a function, and he and my wife are becoming fast friend drinking buddies. And Jim basically asked Jennifer, do you think Denny come back? And yeah, he'll do it. He'll take it. So my agent got me my job back. And so, and I don't know the number of years in between, but so I go back to doing men's and women's.
Okay.
And about 4 years ago, I just decided, at my age, it's a little much.
Okay.
And so my first loyalty was to the women's program. They're the ones that hired me to begin with. They didn't form a spirit committee to kick me out of the job. I'll downsize. I will downsize to just doing one. So I continue to be the public address announcer. When you say the voice of, I always get that's the play-by-play person.
Right.
I have never called a game. I've never called a game of any kind. I've never done any play-by-play. But I've been their public address announcer now since 1998, and until they say, you're kind of sounding old. Why'd you hit the road? I'll keep doing it. And Peter Christian feels the same way about football. He says if they just assume we're both going to be there. And it's okay. Well, if you assume that means you want us there, and as long as you want us there, we are honored to do it.
Your voice really hasn't aged a lot, and I haven't heard Peter. But
I kind of agree.
Yeah, it really hasn't.
That too. I'm proud of that. I like to think so too. And just a footnote here, not to get too far off course, but in 2018, this doesn't have anything to do with broadcasting, but it has to do with announcing. In 2018, we get a call from the facilities manager at the Adams Center, University of Montana, and says, hey, we were wondering if you and Peter would be interested in reading the names of the graduates as they come up to get their diplomas. We got spring commencement coming up.
Right.
So this is spring of 2018. I said, oh my gosh, what an honor. I said, I can't answer for Peter, but I'm in. And so they get a hold of Peter and says, yeah, same thing. What an honor. What do we do? Well, there's going to be like a rehearsal meeting the day before, and we'll go to that, and they'll kind of, walk you through what the expectations are. And okay, guys, you're halfway. Here's the ramp that leads up to the stage where they get their diploma, probably about, 30 or 40 feet long. And we're going to position you about halfway up the ramp. And each student will have a card, and it'll have their name on it, and they're supposed to write their own little pronunciation guide, or because I would never want to botch an opponent's name at a basketball game, but I don't want to botch a graduate's name with a bunch of family members up there.
Right.
And so, okay, all right. So they do that, and we look through all of the names. We get the phonetic pronunciation guide and all the names, not really thinking at the time, we don't know which names we're going to get. You're going to get half of them. I'm going to get half of them, but we'll look through them, and we will read the names of the graduates as they come up to get their diplomas. And what the facilities manager said is that, we want to get through 17 graduate names every minute.
Simple math says
we have to take this little card and say, okay, it's Scott Coleman, is that how, you want to make sure you're saying the name right. And we pulled it off.
Did
and
you?
we did quite well.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and they were so appreciative, and we thought, yeah, this was really cool. First time I'd ever been asked. Is the first time you've been asked? Yeah, first time. I said, yeah, they must just ask, I don't know, and maybe not always media personalities, but they must ask somebody different for every graduation ceremony to do this.
Mm-hmm. No,
we've been the house band since 2018.
Congratulations.
Every graduation ceremony, and that's the fall ones too, the fall commencements.
Wow.
A few weeks ago, we did, I believe, I want to say it was our maybe 18th one in a row, something like that. But
you and Peter, house band, I love that.
That was the long way of saying, well, they respect us, appreciate us, they like our work, and they just assume that we're going to be there. Now it's the same deal for reading names at a graduation ceremony.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wanted to ask you, God, it just slips my mind right. So what was it like when your first game or the first time you used that microphone in Dahlberg Arena? Because I've done it once. It was amazing because of the sound and kind of the legacy when you look at, like Fats when he used to do it. I mean, what did that feel like? And,
just as a footnote there, but when we got the broadcast rights and we could appoint our own announcers, that was one we did not touch. Fat Dad was the public address announcer.
Oh, he was still doing it. Okay.
Yeah, he was still doing it for a while. Is it not going there? No, he did it a few more years, and that's how I ended up with it. But that's who I succeeded, which was not. That, I think because I was already very aware of that, being in broadcasting, that did not faze me in any way. But I know exactly what you're talking about, because, like, for instance, the guy that replaced me as the public address announcer for men's basketball, you're not a lounge singer, and my approach, it's a little low key, but I can sound pretty enthusiastic and without yelling and screaming and being that guy.
Right.
And also, I think people think this is silly sometimes when I say this, that it really helps to know the game of basketball very well, which I do, if you're going to be a basketball public address announcer. But no, that didn't faze me very much at all. I was still pretty comfortable around that, but I know what you're talking about.
Seems like a great gig. I mean, it's
a special gig. Yeah.
And especially now that the men's team, both have kind of risen quite a bit to where they're always competitive with, who's the current coach? Travis
DeCure is the men's coach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's done a nice job.
The University of Montana women's team has fallen on some kind of hard times over the last few years, but you start to get the feel, the pick up of a vibe of the talent that they signed this spring as transfers, and the talent that they signed as high school seniors last year.
Nice.
They've got a lot to be looking forward to. They just got a phenomenal, just state of the art. Boy, did somebody donate a lot of money to that program locker room, which
Good.
is what happened.
Women deserve that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, even though the program is down a little bit, they have a pretty loyal fan base.
They do,
which is the other nice thing. I guess that's. You feed off that energy a little bit, but even if attendance is down, that means that there's at least 2,000 people in that arena, and that's not bad for women's basketball, and it will grow. But my attitude has always been, I'm not part of the show.
Right.
I don't have snappy one-liners, or I'm not going to sing, or I'm not going to go, come on, get on your feet. They know all these things.
They do.
You can fire up a crowd if just by the way you say certain names, or if a player an opponent just fouled out. There's little things without being obnoxious about it.
Yeah.
And that's me. I'm not part of the show. I would be conspicuous by my absence. Oh God, they don't have an announcer here tonight. I don't want to be conspicuous by my presence. Oh God, that guy's just ooh.
No, you can make yourself unwanted pretty easily.
Yeah. You can use that line, conspicuous by presence and absence, if you want. I'm
going to trademark it.
Yeah.
So when I trademark it,
I'll be looking at your arm moving like you're writing something down. So
I'm just nervous. That's all.
Yeah. And if you wrote it down, repeat it back to me, because I'll never remember.
Well, hopefully it'll be on the final version here.
That's
always hilarious.
And I also work for the company that we lost the broadcast rights to getting close to 15 years ago now, Learfield. Learfield
Oh,
Sports owns the broadcast rights to University of Montana Sports. Yeah,
is
they
that a
came
radio
in.
station?
No, they are a sports broadcast company, and they have
Okay,
contracts with most of the major universities in the country, a number of professional teams.
interesting.
But they came in and offered the University of Montana a lot more money than we could, so we lost it. And then they come along, and in comes representatives from Learfield to talk to my manager, and they were just extremely aloof and arrogant. You're podunk, Missoula, Montana. You don't know crap about this stuff. We know what we're doing, don't you? We win. And the Learfield representatives and my manager, it was just oil and water, and it was ugly. But if I have another skill other than the ability to sound like I'm just communicating one-on-one, I'm a pretty damn good diplomatic PR guy.
Nice.
And they picked up on that kind of quick and said, their operations manager, they're based in Missouri, their operations manager says, I think you could probably act as a liaison and kind of help smooth this thing out a little bit.
Yeah,
What would you say to a such and such a stipend just to kind of do that? And maybe we're still going to do a broadcast from the tailgate party area for home games. And,
sure.
it'd be nice to have somebody who would set that all up and make sure it sounds good and this, that, and the other thing. And so I became that guy. So there's another broadcast related side hustle.
Yeah,
And so that went along, and the two guys that we had working for us, they were good. They were pretty talented sportscasters. Well, they both took other jobs and moved on. And
Yeah.
so the Learfield Sports Properties manager at the time said, would you be willing to step in and on the other side of the microphone and be the on-air anchor for this thing? And we have a former player in mind who we think could do a great job. And just the fact that he was a real successful, really talented former player adds credibility. Would you be willing to give it a go? And I said, well, yeah. What about you? We're not going to have a sound guy now. If something, he says, yeah, well, we'll try to work through that if the need arises. But would you be willing to do this? And so I took that on. And so even though, again, never done play-by-play, I'm now the anchor of our 2-hour pregame football broadcast for University of Montana Sports.
That is so. What station is it broadcast on locally for radio? Is it your station too?
KGBO.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they
it's on
kind of
KGBO.
sell it back to you, and then you can sell
No,
advertising?
great question. No, they pay us basically a monthly rental fee. I think it's a 7-month agreement. The 7 months that basketball and football are on the air.
Okay.
Because they had the money and they have the resources, but they do not have a delivery system
Right.
in these markets. So you got to get one of those. So
Sure.
that remained us. So we will pay you. They pay us X number of dollars monthly on a 7-month per year contract.
Love it.
And I'm sure everybody thinks it must be a cash cow. We cannot sell a single advertisement in a University of Montana sports broadcast.
It's all up to
It's
them.
all theirs. It's all theirs. Either
So-
statewide or local.
Yeah, and when I was at KYLT, the statewide thing was pretty lucrative. So, but what do they do? Do they have like a local salesperson, or who sells in
Yes,
Missoula,
yes.
Montana? So somebody
Yeah,
locally.
it's a I believe it's a 4-person team.
Oh,
They
wow.
do business. Their offices are in the Adams Center on the University of Montana campus. They
Oh.
do business locally as Grizzly Sports Properties.
Interesting.
So technically, I'm contract labor for Grizzly Sports Properties.
Okay.
I was contract labor for the University of Montana, but they wanted to put me on the payroll. So I guess technically, I actually work for the University of Montana too.
How many 1099s do you get a year, Denny?
Just the one. Just the
Just
one. But it's a great
one.
question. Yeah. Once the University of Montana put me on the payroll, then that was no longer a 1099. My only 1099 is with Grizzly Sports Properties, Learfield.
You are hustling every day, it sounds like.
And you know what? I'm not even done yet. I'm also the producer and director of a statewide hunting and fishing program every Saturday morning. We call it the
Oh my
Montana Outdoor
gosh.
Radio Show.
So how many years or decades has that been going on?
Well,
I can see why your wife's an agent. You got to slow that girl. You got to slow that girl down.
Yeah, exactly. Well, since 1990, I guess 1998. And again, now we got to go back to my bosses, Mark Ward and Dale Moore,
Yep.
who sold Western Broadcasting to Marathon Media, and they have all this money. Well, Mark Ward wasn't quite sure how to what he was going to do, other than all that he really wants to do in life is hunt and fish. And so, how can I turn hunting and fishing into a profit center? I know. I'll go to the radio station and say, "Hey, I want to do this 2-hour statewide show. We want the flagship to be KGVO here in Missoula. I'll hire a couple guys to run. What do you think?" And my boss at the time, Gene, said, "Yeah, okay." So that's how the Montana Outdoor Radio Show was born. And me, in my capacity as operations manager and good friends, with Mark, who wanted to do this, I helped out with the bells and the whistles, all the intro and outro stuff and the commercial. I just kind of helped them build a little bit of the format clock. And then I did that for about just to help them. And they weren't paying me, and I didn't mind, helping them out. It was just, because it was a good sounding show and we were proud of it.
Yeah.
In fact, we did win one of the State of Montana Broadcast Awards one year for it. And so it was just kind of a funsy thing to do. Well, the guy that was their studio operator, he decided to leave. He moves on. And so they didn't have anybody to do it. And so I negotiated to, I could, right now in the situation I happen to be in right now, I could use a little extra money. And what would you think if I took that over? And he said, "Yeah, love to have you do that." That was about 22 years ago. And so,
cashing checks.
It's so weird that I've got all these side hustles, and yet they're all broadcast related, Scott. It's not like I have to go clean bathrooms on Tuesday and Thursday nights for a little extra cash. It's not like that. It's broadcast related stuff that I enjoy doing, and it's hard to let go. And I acknowledge at this age, it's time to think about letting go a little bit more, but I selfishly don't want to give. I think I would be a lousy retiree, but I don't know.
No, I've seen that. We were talking earlier about the Rolling Stones, and they're still out recording and touring.
Right.
And that just seems to be, kind of our generation between, I'm just going to continue to grind and have fun and live. And some people might call it retirement. I'm going to call it my second career or third career or whatever. But that's.
I have downsized a little bit with my Town Square Media job package, but not that much. And I think maybe this is the first summer that I thought, well, how can I maybe downsize it a little more? But I don't really know how. But my boss was very receptive to that idea a year ago, and so I take a little more time off. And
good.
But it's just, it's all good. I guess the best thing I can say about a broadcast career, mine anyway, is I don't have to do this stuff. I get to do this stuff. And, it's a pretty special gig in a lot of ways.
It really is. Do you still so are you ever on the air live now?
Only on Saturday mornings during that hunting and fishing program.
Okay.
That's the only time.
Missoula is most of Missoula, pre-recorded, taped?
We have local morning drive announcers on 2 of our music intensive radio stations, and we have a live news broadcast team on our news talk station morning.
Right.
But we also have midday and afternoon announcers. We probably have more local announcers than most stations and markets our size have.
And is Peter still doing mornings on VO for news?
He is doing not news. He is anchoring a 2-hour statewide talk show.
Okay.
He puts in 3 or 4 hours a day. He's been considered part-time status for a couple of years.
Nice.
I think getting close to a couple of years. And I think he would like to call it good by the end of the year, as would his wife. And they have a grandchild now.
Yep.
But in Seattle. And
okay.
That's really where their heart is right now. But I think he will have the same separation anxiety that I would. A couple of Dalmatians here just don't know what to do when when the microphone's not around. Where's the microphone? So I don't know how he'll deal, but because I don't know what his hobbies and interests are.
Yeah. One of the things that Argo talked about was how radio has changed from a corporate standpoint. You've mentioned this too, and his line was the fun be gone, that it's really difficult to do and out of the kind of just a spontaneous promotion or say something, or that you're really kind of in a box these days with corporate radio. Do you find that to be kind of the case?
Yeah. That's very true. Is that this is the way we are going to do it because we've done a lot of testing and sampling and research and study, and we know the most, and I necessarily agree with that a lot of the times. But yeah, there's very little in-house programming.
Yeah.
You're not on your own, and I see his point. It's frustrating. You make of it what you can, but that's part of the buy-in. Well, that's what it's
Yeah.
going to be, and you don't you're not ball and chained to that studio, but that's your decision.
Yeah.
And
So if Denny had a
but yeah,
crystal ball, what's that look like for radio? What's your crystal ball? What do you think? You ever think about that in
no,
terms of the future of radio in general?
I really don't. I have a lot of respect for the company I work for because they're very progressive and forward thinking, and
Nice.
somewhere around half of our and Town Square Media makes a lot of money, and about half of
Good.
it at least is on the digital end, is on the digital side. The websites, just all the streaming services and social media services that we can offer, they were way ahead of the game on that. I mean, they're just, others are catching up, and I'm sure they're doing fine, but nobody
Yeah.
does that like Town Square does that. But it's not an easy place to work. It's very demanding. I think they're tough on programming. I think they're a lot tougher on sales, and I don't know that that's
Sure.
always the right approach, because sales has always had a tendency to eat its young. And I think that that's more the case even with Town Square. By the time they get done training somebody, don't you dare go out the door and try to sell something until we're done training you. I think by then a lot of them feel like they have a strike or two against them, or they feel like, oh man,
Oh,
it's not like we're here. And it's not like you should just throw somebody, okay, you start today, tomorrow get out on the street and spend the whole day walking around town and making cold calls door to door. No, there has to be a training template in
right.
place, but I think they probably take that way beyond where it needs to be. To sales are hard, and I will say this too, and I guess it's and I am grateful for the respect I'm shown, is that in my hybrid position as a sales rep, as an announcer, I have a lot of latitude. I don't have to participate in every new sales initiative and directive, and I can kind of do this, the programming. And I know it's like this. My office is right in the middle of the building. So programming thinks I'm doing sales things, and sales thinks I'm doing programming things. And so if I don't want to do nothing, I don't have to, because everybody, no, but it's, I guess just respect out of respect for all the years. And I'm still producing. I mean, if I wasn't
Yeah.
selling anything, but I'm still putting, I pay my way. I'm still putting good numbers on the book sales wise. And if there were such a thing as ratings, which I think that's a source of frustration for a lot of announcers now, is that we do not subscribe to any rating service anymore.
That was one of my questions. Yeah. So
Yeah.
no more books.
Right. And it's really hard to manage what you can't, how do you manage something you can't measure? We've had a couple of corporate execs come in and just sort of have the group gathering, town hall, say anything you want, it doesn't be a rah-rah, say nice things, or critical things if you want. And I remember one of the announcers brought up, well, God, we could really use some more people in the programming end, given all the expectations of us. And it was kind of a pat response, I guess. Well, then make more money and we'll talk. Well, without revealing what we bill annually here in Missoula, I can tell you it's decently into the seven figures every year. So you can't manage what you can't measure. So that's obviously not enough. So what is enough?
Yeah.
What do you need? A couple more
What's
mil, or what?
what's the
Where
number?
are we at? You cannot manage what you cannot measure, and I think that we experience that kind of on both sides, programming and sales.
Right.
But again, given a lot of leeway, shown a lot of respect, and treated very, very well. And I'd still like to think that at this point my manager's head would explode if I did say, hey, here's my 2-week notice, I'm retiring.
Yeah.
Because when I went in with the idea about not working Mondays anymore, and what do you think if I did this and did this? And he was 100% supportive of that. And,
Just don't leave completely.
so I got that going for me. Yeah.
That's a nice place to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're gonna cut back a little bit. So what does the
If I
summer
can.
look like? What do you have on the agenda?
Well, I would like to do just a little bit more of what I already do. I would like to fish a little bit more. You know, I don't have a boat, but I have a float tube, and there's a couple of small ponds in the area that I've caught some big damn fish out of those.
Nice.
And I would like to. My wife, as early Father's Day present, just bought me a brand new set of golf clubs.
There you go.
I would like to play a little. I would like to at least justify the purchase of the gift. You know, I'd like to do both of those a little bit more.
Yep.
Than I do, but we both love Grizzly football. That's a big deal for both of us as a couple. And my wife Jennifer's really, if I could not show up to set up all the stuff for, like, say, a pregame broadcast at the university at their tailgates, she could. You know, she's a gadget girl and is smart and knows how to do all that stuff. Our reward is that is part of my contractual package with Grizzly Sports Properties, is that we get a very, very nice parking lot and 4 season tickets to football.
Great.
And yeah,
That was smart. There you go.
nice little dealio. And but we earn it. But you know, it's nice to have it. It's almost that almost has more value to me than the actual
Yeah.
$10.99, you know, stipend.
Good seats and a good parking place are
Yeah.
they're hard
Yeah.
to come by.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. You've been very generous with your time, but I do want to kind of wrap up with the fact that you've been on the air in Missoula for how many decades? Close to?
Well, I guess I'm into my 6th one, aren't I?
Okay,
50 and a half years, I guess is what it is.
And I know that there's going to be a celebration of your time on the air and around the valley this fall. You want to tell us about that?
It's set for October 15th.
Okay.
And it's going to be held at what's called the Canyon Club. That's the private suite area at the top of the east side of the Washington Grizzly football stadium complex. And you know, just a few speeches, and just in recognition of, I guess, my coworker Peter Christian. I had one about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And so it's something my boss really, really wants to do. Bless his heart. It's you know, and I'm not saying, okay, I'm not the reluctant recipient, but it seems to me more, excuse me, more to him than it does to me. But no, it'll be a neat deal. It'll just be some friends, some of my favorite clients, because I have a wonderful account list. I just adore so many of my clients, and you know, and just listeners, I guess. And the venue doesn't seat a lot of people, but that's okay. You know, I think I've actually had a couple of my high school reunions in there, and I want to see it seats around 125 is all. But that's fine. You know, 125 would be packed, and it would come look bigger than it is. So October 15th, which I want to say is a Thursday.
Okay. Well, best of luck with that.
Yeah,
Denny,
thank you for all your time.
Denny, you are too kind. Thank you for your time, sir. This has been such a joy for me, and I can't wait to get this published and to celebrate your time and your stories, and really enjoyed this, Denny. Thank you so much for everything.
Me too, Scott. Thank you.